Beneath the silver glow of a restless moon, a thick veil of fog clings to forgotten train tracks, twisting through a desolate valley as if guarding secrets long buried. The air is heavy with an eerie silence, broken only by the faintest whisper of what could be distant laughter, or was it the wind playing tricks on the mind? Imagine for a moment standing there as a strange, otherworldly light begins to cut through the mist. It glides closer, revealing the outline of a train, its carriages shrouded in a ghostly glow. This is no ordinary locomotive. It is the Phantom Circus Train, said to emerge only on moonlit nights, carrying performers from a vanished world. Acrobats frozen in mid-air, a lion tamer still gripping his whip, and a ringmaster with eyes as dark as the abyss, all aboard a journey without end. Some say it's an echo of tragedy, others believe it's a curse. Tonight, we unravel the chilling tale behind this spectral enigma. Stay with us as we delve into a story that dances on the edge of the supernatural, where every detail will leave you questioning what's real and what's a whisper from the shadows of the unknown. Now turning to the golden age of the 1920s, when traveling circuses were the heartbeat of entertainment in rural towns. Imagine the mesmerizing world they brought to life. Brightly colored tents rose like beacons in otherwise quiet landscapes, promising an evening of wonder and escape. The performers were larger-than-life acrobats defied gravity with impossible stunts. Clowns painted smiles on the faces of even the weariest souls, and lion tamers commanded fearsome beasts with a mere crack of a whip. At the center of it all stood the enigmatic Victor LeMont, a ringmaster whose booming voice and magnetic presence could hold an audience spellbound. His charm was undeniable, but there was something in his piercing gaze, a shadow, perhaps, that hinted at deeper secrets. In the fall of one fateful year, the Victor LeMont Circus arrived in the remote town of Black Hollow. It was the kind of place where time seemed to crawl, and the arrival of the circus was a rare and long-awaited thrill. For 3 nights, the performances dazzled the townsfolk. The fire-breathers lit up the dark skies, jugglers spun impossibly intricate patterns, and the orchestra played melodies so hauntingly beautiful that they lingered long after the tents came down. Yet there was an unusual tension in the air that final evening, a sense that something was out of place, a feeling that many dismissed as the fatigue of too much excitement. After their last standing ovation, the performers packed up their show, boarded their train, and prepared to depart. Witnesses recall seeing the train's lanterns glowing warmly as it pulled out of the station, the notes of the final encore still drifting faintly in the air. But by dawn, the train and its passengers had vanished without a trace. No tracks, no wreckage, just eerie silence where there once had been vibrant life. The townsfolk were left bewildered, and theories quickly began to spread. Some whispered of a betrayal among the troupe, others of a cursed train destined to carry its passengers into oblivion. There were even murmurs of a tragic event, a sacrifice, perhaps, that bound the performers to an eternal, ghostly existence. Black Hollow would never be the same, its name forever tied to the unsolved mystery. As the years passed, stories of that night blended with superstition, making it hard to separate fact from folklore. But for those who lived through it, the memory of that departing train and its haunting disappearance remained painfully vivid. Moving forward, we delve deeper into the eerie, setting these events left behind the abandoned tracks and the ghostly silence that seems to echo with the shadows of the past. Now turning to the heart of Black Hollow, a town that feels as if it exists in its own forgotten corner of the world. tucked within a shadowy valley, the place is cloaked in an almost otherworldly stillness. The homes, weathered and sagging with age, line streets that seem to whisper with the weight of countless untold stories. But it is beyond the edge of the town where the real unease begins. Here the woods stretch like a wall of shadow, their trees twisted as though bearing silent witness to secrets too dark to utter. Amid this foreboding wilderness lie the remnants of the train tracks, a pathway overgrown with gnarled weeds and creeping moss. The rails, once a gleaming lifeline for visitors and travelers, are now rusted and fractured, disappearing into the dense fog that clings to the valley floor. The silence in this place is suffocating, broken only by the occasional groan of the wind weaving through the trees. Locals avoid this area, their unease palpable even when they speak of it from a distance. It is said that on certain nights, when the moon hangs low and the mist thickens, the air grows heavy with an unshakable chill. People swear they hear faint echoes of haunting melodies drifting through the fog, a circus tune carried on a breeze that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Some claim to have seen flickering lights in the distance, like the ghostly lanterns of a train lost to time. Despite the generations that have passed since the circus vanished, Black Hollow has not forgotten. Stories continue to ripple through the community, passed down like chilling warnings. Children dare one another to walk the abandoned tracks, though no one ever ventures far. Superstitions about the train's curse keep even the bravest souls at bay. The elders of the town speak in hushed tones of strange happenings, faint laughter carried on the wind, shadows moving where they shouldn't, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. For many, it feels as though the tragic spirits of the performers linger here, forever tethered to a place they were never meant to stay. With its oppressive atmosphere and the unsettling sense of something unfinished, Black Hollow sets the stage for a tale steeped in mystery and dread. It becomes clear that this is not just a town defined by geography, but one permanently marked by the phantom echoes of its haunted past. Moving forward, we uncover the chilling legend that has grown from the whispers of this place, the story of the Phantom Circus Train, a spectral locomotive that defies the boundaries of reality. Now turning to the tale that has haunted Black Hollow for nearly a century, the legend of the Phantom Circus Train takes shape from the whispers of those who claim to have seen the impossible. It is said that this spectral train emerges only on moonlit nights when the valley is blanketed in a dense, unrelenting fog. The stories begin with faint, unearthly sounds, a distant tune that carries the unmistakable cheerfulness of a circus melody, though it feels hollow and warped, as if played by invisible hands. Then, out of the mist, the glowing outline of a train appears, its lanterns casting an otherworldly light that seems to pierce the darkness, yet illuminate nothing. According to witnesses, the train glides silently along the remnants of the old tracks, its presence defying the natural order. There is no clatter of wheels, no sound of an engine, just an eerie stillness broken only by the faint echoes of laughter and applause. These echoes, they say, chill the air like a ghostly reminder of a performance long forgotten by all except the shadows that linger here. Some claim to have seen figures aboard the train, flickering shapes that resemble performers frozen in time. A clown's painted face glimpsed through a window, a trapeze artist poised as if mid-swing, or the silhouette of a ringmaster tipping his hat, all vanish the moment the train dissolves back into the fog, leaving no trace it was ever there. The legend suggests this phantom locomotive does not appear on a whim, but follows a strange and unsettling pattern. Those who have studied the tales point out that the sightings often coincide with the anniversary of the circus's disappearance, or during the phases of the moon when shadows seem to stretch farther than they should. Locals whisper that the train is not merely a ghostly apparition, but a limbo, a prison for the souls of the performers, bound to a cursed eternity by an unknown tragedy. What makes the legend even more unnerving is how the train's appearances seem to defy logic and time. Travelers passing through Black Hollow describe encountering it on nights they were certain no train should be there, its glowing form cutting through the mist like an echo out of history. And yet, when they return to the town, they find no physical evidence of tracks disturbed or footprints left behind. Only the stories remain, passed along as warnings to never stray too close to the woods on nights when the fog rolls in thick and the air grows unnaturally cold. As the legend of the Phantom Circus Train endures, it continues to blur the line between folklore and reality. Some dismiss it as a haunting tale meant to entertain or frighten, while others believe the train's spectral appearances are a sign, a desperate attempt by the souls trapped aboard to be seen, to be remembered, or perhaps to find release from their eternal purgatory. Moving forward, we meet the figure who dares to chase these chilling mysteries, a woman whose own past intertwines with the supernatural world in ways that even she cannot fully understand, the determined and enigmatic Elena Graves. Moving forward, we meet Elena Graves, a formidable figure in the world of paranormal investigations, whose determination is matched only by the weight of her own haunted past. Her experiences with the supernatural began not as a profession, but as a deeply personal encounter, an unexplainable tragedy that left her searching for answers in the unseen. Elena is a woman of contrasts. Her sharp, analytical mind thrives on logic and evidence, yet she carries a quiet empathy for the mysteries she uncovers, as if each ghostly tale mirrors a fragment of her own story. Her approach is methodical, with notebooks meticulously filled with sketches, timelines, and observations, but it's her deep-rooted sense of compassion that truly sets her apart. Elena's drive to pursue the Phantom Circus Train is not just about solving another case. It goes deeper into the realm of redemption and resolution. She believes that every ghost story holds a truth waiting to be unearthed, and for Elena, revealing these truths is a way to honor the lives that time has forgotten. Though she rarely speaks of her own loss, it is clear that her quest is as much about finding closure for herself as it is for the restless spirits she encounters. For Elena, the legend of the Phantom Circus Train is more than a chilling tale. It is a puzzle that might bridge the gap between the living and the lost, a chance to bring meaning to the shadows that have followed her throughout her life. Her reputation precedes her, marked by successful investigations that others deemed impossible or too terrifying to pursue. Yet, Elena remains humble, often brushing off the growing fascination with her work. She sees herself not as a hero, but as a seeker, someone who ventures into the unknown not for glory, but to uncover the truths that hide in its depths. Her unwavering belief that every haunting is a story yearning to be heard drives her forward, even when the path grows dark and the answers seem elusive. And now Elena has set her sights on Black Hollow, drawn by the chilling accounts of the Phantom Circus Train and the heartbreaking story of the performers it carries. It's not just the eerie tales or the glowing train that captivate her. It is the question of why. Why these souls remain bound to a spectral existence, why their tragedy continues to echo through the fog. For Elena, this is more than an investigation. It is a mission to bring light to a decades-old mystery, one that may finally confront the shadows of her own past. With her arrival in Black Hollow, the stage is set for a confrontation with the unknown, as Elena prepares to step into a world where logic bends, time blurs, and the line between the living and the dead grows hauntingly thin. Now turning to Victor LeMont, the celebrated ringmaster of the ill-fated circus, we uncover a man whose charm and charisma masked his darker ambitions. In life, Victor was the embodiment of the show itself, commanding, theatrical, and captivating. His booming voice could hold an audience spellbound, and his presence was the glue that held the troupe together. Yet, beneath the dazzling lights of the big top and the applause of captivated crowds, Victor's true nature was far more complex. Known for his sharp wit and cunning, Victor carried an unrelenting drive to succeed, a hunger that often pushed him to walk the fine line between ambition and ruthlessness. As whispers of the Phantom Circus Train began to surface following its mysterious disappearance, stories about Victor's dubious dealings came to light. Some claimed he had made promises to the performers that were too good to be true, while others spoke of unexplained financial troubles that seemed to plague the circus in its final days. But the most chilling rumors revolved around a pact, one some believed was not made with any earthly being. Desperate to ensure the circus would flourish even as audiences began to dwindle in the changing times, it is said that Victor sought power in ways that defied logic or reason. Through stolen journal entries and cryptic letters uncovered by Elena Graves in her investigation, a portrait of betrayal starts to take form. Victor, it seems, was not above sacrificing the people he called family for his own gain. There are mentions of an enigmatic visitor who came to him late one evening, offering a deal cloaked in mystery. The terms remain unclear, but what followed was a series of strange occurrences. Performers who had once thrived under his leadership began to grow uneasy. Accidents grew more frequent, and a looming sense of dread seemed to creep into every performance. When the train vanished that fateful night, the town mourned the loss of its dazzling circus, but some believed Victor's fate was far darker than the rest. Was his life claimed along with his performers, or did he knowingly seal his soul to a cursed existence? Accounts of the glowing train are often accompanied by sightings of a shadowy figure who stalks its ghostly corridors, his silhouette unmistakable. Witnesses describe the harrowing sensation of being watched, a whisper of cold air brushing past them, or the sound of Victor's once commanding voice echoing faintly through the fog. For Elena, piecing together Victor's story is critical. She begins to see not just a man consumed by ambition, but someone whose actions may have permanently altered the lives, or afterlives, of those he sought to rule. The spectral train, it seems, is not merely a vessel of haunting memories, but a prison forged by Victor's choices, tethering him and his troupe to an eternal limbo. Yet even within this shadowy existence, Victor appears to cling to control, as though the train itself bends to his will. What Elena cannot yet know is whether Victor's spirit seeks redemption, or if his greed and desperation still hold sway, making him a formidable force within the supernatural realm she is about to confront. As the fog thickens and the whispers of the past grow louder, Elena finds herself on the brink of a chilling discovery that will challenge her resolve and test the limits of her courage. With the next phase of the journey in sight, Elena Graves arrives at the secluded town of Black Hollow, where the air itself feels heavy with untold stories. The town seems trapped in time, its weathered buildings leaning against the weight of history and silence. The locals, much like their surroundings, are guarded, their faces etched with caution and their voices hesitant. As Elena approaches them, notebook in hand and curiosity burning in her eyes, she quickly learns that Black Hollow is a place where words are spoken carefully, especially when it comes to the Phantom Circus Train. The first conversations are strained and riddled with evasion, with older residents offering vague warnings about leaving the past undisturbed. One weathered man, sitting on the steps of the dilapidated train station, mutters that those who go digging for the train's secrets often find more than they bargained for. Another, a shopkeeper whose hands tremble ever so slightly as she places Elena's change on the counter, mentions hearing the faint strains of circus music late at night, but refuses to elaborate. It becomes clear to Elena that the townspeople share an unspoken pact of silence, bound by fear of inviting misfortune. Still, as the days pass, Elena's persistence begins to chip away at their reluctance. It is a faded, sepia-toned photograph pressed into her hand by a nervous teenager that offers her the first tangible link to her investigation. The photograph shows the circus troupe gathered in front of the train, their smiles frozen in time. Among the performers, she notices subtle details: a trapeze artist holding hands with the clown, a gesture that seems more intimate than friendly. The teenager whispers that their grandmother had once spoken of a forbidden romance between two members of the troupe, one that had reportedly enraged Victor LeMont and sparked betrayal from within. Elena's investigation gains momentum when she is directed to the crumbling library on the edge of town. Hidden among the dusty stacks, she discovers a journal belonging to a circus worker, its pages filled with cryptic entries. The handwriting grows increasingly erratic as the entries progress, detailing a growing unease among the performers and a series of disturbing events leading up to their final night. One passage catches Elena's breath, a description of strange symbols etched into the ground near the train, symbols that the writer claims appeared overnight and seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Poring over the journal, Elena pieces together fragments of a story that feels incomplete yet chillingly close to a revelation. With each clue she uncovers, whispers of the phantom train seem to grow louder in her ears, snatches of distant laughter, the faint echo of a ringmaster's call. And yet the picture remains blurred, the details shrouded in mystery. What Elena cannot ignore, however, is the deepening connection between the train's ghostly presence and the lives of those who once performed under the big top. As the sun sets and a damp fog begins to creep through Black Hollow, Elena feels the weight of the stories she has unearthed. Though the clues she has gathered spark more questions than answers, she senses that the pieces of the puzzle are slowly but surely aligning. What remains to be seen is whether these fragments will lead to a truth that can finally silence the whispers of the past or unleash something far more unsettling. With her resolve unshaken, Elena ventures further into the heart of the town's secrets, knowing that the spectral allure of the Phantom Circus Train waits just beyond the veil of night. As the next challenge unfolds, Elena treads carefully down the overgrown train tracks, their rusting iron swallowed by moss and time. The air feels charged, as though the earth itself remembers the tragedy that unfolded here. Her boots crunch against the gravel, and her flashlight flickers ominously, casting elongated shadows that seem to dance with hidden intentions. Then, just off the tracks, she spots something peculiar, a patch of ground marked with strange, swirling symbols. They seem carved into the dirt with precision, their patterns intricate and almost hypnotic. She kneels to examine them, tracing their grooves with her gloved fingers, and feels an inexplicable tingling in her hand, as though the symbols are alive with a faint, pulsing energy. Nearby, she notices something else, fragments of burned wood and scorched fabric tangled among the weeds. As she pulls one of the scraps free, her breath catches. It is patterned in bright, faded colors, unmistakably part of a circus tent. The edges are charred, and the faint scent of smoke still lingers, as if the fire that consumed it had only just died out. She pieces through the remnants and finds broken juggling pins, warped by intense heat, and a singed top hat that bears the initials V. L carefully embroidered inside, a ghostly testament to Victor LeMont's presence. The air grows colder as the wind picks up, carrying with it something faint and haunting, a melody. It's soft at first, barely audible, but unmistakable. Circus music, its jaunty rhythm oddly distorted, like a warped record playing in the distance. Elena freezes, every sense heightened, and swivels her flashlight toward the source. There is nothing but darkness and shifting mist, yet the sound persists, growing louder and then fading suddenly, as though it was never there. Her pulse quickens as she realizes she is utterly alone, or so it seems. Just as her resolve to press on deepens, she stumbles upon something out of place among the remnants, a note, yellowed with age, but inexplicably untouched by the elements around it. The ink is smudged yet still legible, and the words tell of betrayal, a plot by a rival circus to sabotage Victor LeMont's troupe and steal their fame. As Elena reads, her mind races. Could this be the explanation? Could the ghostly train be nothing more than a result of human malice? The idea is plausible, yet something about the note feels off, unnaturally convenient, as though it was placed there deliberately to mislead. Her instincts tell her not to trust it entirely, and this hesitation sharpens her focus. The symbols, the burned remnants, the music, all point to something far beyond the reach of mundane explanations. Elena tucks the note into her bag, its presence still nagging at her as she rises to her feet. The night presses in closer, the fog thickening around her, and she knows this is only the beginning. Though the answers remain elusive, the dark allure of the Phantom Circus Train feels more tangible than ever, pulling her deeper into its chilling mystery. Moving forward, the thick fog envelops Elena, swirling like ghostly hands reaching out to pull her back. A sudden vibration underfoot stops her cold, a sensation that feels like the earth itself is trembling in anticipation. The distant sound of a whistle echoes through the night, low, mournful, and impossibly hollow. Her heart pounds as she whips her flashlight toward the source, its narrow beam cutting through the dense mist. Then, faintly at first, she sees it. A dim, golden glow pulses through the fog, growing brighter with every second. The outline of a train emerges, shimmering and almost translucent, its form both there and not, as though caught between worlds. The train rolls forward soundlessly, its wheels moving without the usual clank of iron against rail. The glowing lights from the windows spill into the darkness, illuminating the fog with an eerie radiance. Inside, shadowy figures flicker and sway, their movements unnatural, yet strangely mesmerizing. As Elena takes a hesitant step closer, the silhouettes sharpen into forms performers dressed in extravagant, vintage costumes. A woman in a feathered headdress twirls a hoop of flames, though no fire burns. Acrobats contort in slow, otherworldly motions, their limbs bending in impossible ways. And then there are the clowns, their painted grins frozen, yet sinister, their eyes glowing faintly as they stare outward, seemingly right at Elena. Her breath catches in her throat, and for a moment, fear roots her to the spot. But the determination that has carried her this far surges within her once more. She breaks into a run, her feet pounding against the gravel as she chases the phantom train. The glowing carriages glide ahead, always just out of reach, their ghostly form vanishing and reappearing as the mist shifts and swirls. She shouts into the night, hoping for the slightest acknowledgement from the spectral figures, but her voice is swallowed by the encroaching fog. Suddenly, the train begins to pick up speed, the lights within it flickering erratically as the figures inside dissolve into blurs of motion. Elena pushes herself harder, gasping for breath, her flashlight trembling in her hand. Just as she closes the gap, the train veers into a bend that wasn't there before, plunging into a curtain of dense fog that swallows it whole. It's gone. The air is still, save for Elena's heaving breaths and the distant echo of distorted circus music fading into silence. Collapsing to her knees, she feels a wave of despair wash over her, until her flashlight's beam catches something glinting on the ground. Crawling forward, she gently picks up an object lying exactly where the train had disappeared. It is an old, brittle circus flyer, its edges singed as though pulled from a fire. The design is ornate, boasting the name Victor LeMont's spectacular traveling circus in elaborate lettering. But what steals her breath is the date printed at the bottom. Mid-October, the night the circus vanished all those decades ago. As she stares at it, the flyer begins to crumble in her hands, disintegrating into ash and leaving her gripping nothing but cold air. And yet, the lingering scent of smoke and decay assures her that the Phantom Circus Train is far from a figment of her imagination. With her resolve hardened, she rises, knowing that the answers she seeks are hidden deeper within this spectral enigma. With the next phase of the journey in sight, Elena delves deeper into the mystery, piecing together the fragments of truth hidden within the circus's tragic past. The cryptic journal entries, the faded photographs, and now the eerie flyer, all seem to converge around one man, Victor LeMont. As she pores over the evidence, a dark pattern begins to emerge, painting LeMont not as the unfortunate victim of a calamity, but rather as its sinister architect. From whispers of his ruthless ambition to accounts of his unshakable drive to make his circus the most extraordinary spectacle of its age, a chilling story unfolds. It is through the journal of a forgotten performer that Elena uncovers the unthinkable. The entries speak in anguished tones of a deal struck in shadows, a promise of unrivaled success made with a mysterious figure who demanded something far more precious than mere money. Desperate to rid the circus of its financial struggles and eclipse all competitors, LeMont agreed to the pact, unaware, or perhaps uncaring, of the cost. The price was the very souls of his performers, bound to the train forever, caught in an endless purgatory between life and death. Elena's heart aches as she learns more about the lives lost in this dark bargain. She reads of Mabel, the enchanting trapeze artist who dreamed of dancing under the Parisian lights, of Tobias, the lion tamer whose only wish was to build a sanctuary for his cherished animals, of Clara and Thomas, the twin acrobats who longed to return to their small village where their family awaited with open arms. These performers, each burdened with hopes and human flaws, had been condemned to an eternal existence of haunting the very train that once carried them to distant towns and cheering crowds. And yet their actions aboard the spectral train suggest they are not without feelings or purpose. Elena begins to see their movements not as spectacles of fear, but as desperate cries for release. The clowns' painted, sinister grins may mask their sorrow. The acrobats' eerie contortions may be their only means of showing they remain trapped, yearning to escape this limbo. The spectral train itself becomes a symbol of their torment, forever circling back to the night of their betrayal, unable to move forward, yet unwilling to dissipate entirely. Through Elena's growing understanding, the truth becomes agonizingly clear. The Phantom Circus Train is not merely cursed. It is a moving monument to broken trust, shattered dreams, and haunting regret. And at the center of it all stands Victor LeMont, whose ambition and greed set these events into motion. With this revelation, Elena knows her next step is not simply to uncover the mystery, but to confront its source and, if possible, to bring an end to the spectral torment that holds these lost souls captive. As the next challenge unfolds, Elena finds herself standing in the ghostly glow of the Phantom Circus Train, its ethereal form shimmering as if caught between worlds. Knowing this moment has been years in the making, she steps aboard, her resolve unshaken despite the oppressive weight of countless trapped souls surrounding her. The interior of the train is a nightmarish reflection of its former glory. Faded banners hang limp, the scent of stale popcorn lingers, and faint echoes of distant laughter ripple through the air. But at the center of it all, seated proudly in the grand ringmaster's chair, is Victor LeMont. His figure is both haunting and commanding, his eyes burning with a mix of regret and defiance. Elena locks eyes with him, her voice steady as she speaks. "Victor, I know what you did. I know about the pact, the price, and the lives you stole to feed your ambition." Lamont's spectral form flickers, a shadow of guilt crossing his face before his usual arrogance takes hold. "You think you understand," he sneers, his tone both sharp and weary. "I gave them everything: fame, glory, adoration. Without me, they would have been nothing." Elena steps closer, her determination cutting through the cold air. "You gave them nothing but chains, Victor. They trusted you, and you betrayed them for your own gain. Was it worth it, to have your name whispered alongside horror and sorrow instead of admiration?" For the first time, a crack appears in Lamont's bravado. His shoulders sag slightly, and his voice softens. "I wanted to give them a legacy, to create something unforgettable. I never imagined the cost would be this. Then help me," Elena urges, her tone firm but compassionate. "You made the choice that led them here, but it's not too late to set them free. Let them go, Victor. Give them back the peace you stole." Lamont hesitates, his form flickering more violently now, as if torn between duty and the remnants of his dark ambition. The train shudders, and the performers appear, their ghostly forms surrounding the ringmaster. Each face, once vibrant with life, now bears the weight of their eternal sorrow. Yet in their eyes there is also hope, a silent plea for an end. Finally, with a shuddering breath, Lamont nods. "You are right," he whispers, his voice breaking. "I have held them here for too long." He raises his arms, his voice echoing through the train as he chants words that seem to pull at the very fabric of the spectral realm. The performers begin to glow, their ghostly forms dissolving into pure light. Mabel smiles softly, her form twirling one last time before she vanishes. Tobias places a ghostly hand on Elena's arm, a gesture of gratitude before he fades away. Clara and Thomas embrace, their laughter finally free of sorrow as they disappear together. As the last soul ascends, the train begins to dissolve, its haunting lights dimming until all that remains is silence and darkness. LeMont turns to Elena, his expression one of quiet surrender. "Thank you for giving them what I could not," he says, his voice heavy with remorse. With that, his form too begins to fade, leaving Elena alone on the empty tracks. The air is still, the fog lifting to reveal a night sky full of stars. Elena stands in the quiet, her heart heavy but her spirit lighter, knowing she has brought closure to those who deserved it most. Yet as she walks away, a faint sound catches her ear, a distant echo of circus music carried by the wind, leaving her to wonder if the Phantom Circus Train has truly vanished, or if its story will find another to tell its tale. As the sun rises on the next chapter, Elena finds herself back at the edge of Black Hollow, the eerie silence of the town now replaced with an almost peaceful stillness. The oppressive weight that once hovered over the abandoned tracks has lifted, leaving behind a strange but comforting calm. Elena pauses, her mind replaying the haunting sights and sounds aboard the Phantom Circus Train. The faces of the performers linger in her memory, not as specters of despair, but as souls finally freed from their limbo. For the first time in years, she feels a glimmer of closure, not just for them, but for herself. She reflects on how this journey has changed her. The fear and uncertainty that drove her before have been replaced by a quiet resolve, a deeper understanding of her purpose. She no longer seeks answers for her own ghosts, but instead feels a responsibility to bring peace where it is needed, even if it means confronting the unknown. As she steps away from the tracks and into the heart of the town, the early morning light casts Black Hollow in a different shadow. The charm of its weathered buildings and winding roads feels less sinister now. The fog that once seemed suffocating has lifted, revealing a beauty that has always been there, hidden beneath the layers of fear and legend. The people of Black Hollow, though still wary, seem lighter too, freed in their own way from the shadow of the train's curse. Elena knows that this place will never forget the Phantom Circus Train, but its story will no longer define the town in sadness. Yet as she begins her journey away from Black Hollow, a thought lingers, chilling and curious all at once. Could the train's story truly be over, or is it still out there somewhere, waiting for another night, another moonlit fog, and another soul to step aboard? The faint echo of circus music floats through her mind, a sound she is almost certain she hears on the wind before it fades entirely. Whether it is a trick of her imagination or a whisper of something more, she cannot say. But the question remains, haunting and eternal, the kind of question that keeps stories like this alive. With a heavy heart but a renewed spirit, Elena steps toward her next destination, ready for whatever shadows lie ahead. And for those who might one day find themselves on a deserted stretch of track on a foggy night, under a sky full of stars, the story of the Phantom Circus Train serves as both a warning and an invitation to look closer, to listen deeper, and to wonder if, somewhere in the mist, the train is waiting for its next audience.